Okay, we are so excited, and we're here sporting our red plaid, and this is in honor of Hadley Beckett, and we'll get to that in a minute. But we're so delighted, Bethany, to welcome you back. And for those of you who might be new to Bethany or new to Steady On, you're in for a treat today. Bethany is one of our favorite friends that has been on Steady On a couple of times, and she has a new book that we're going to get to talking about here in just a second. But before we dive into that, I want to just say something to you, Bethany, personally, because I really like to acknowledge when God works through someone else. And your being here the first time in April, just a couple of months ago, actually just started something with the ministry, and it's really opened doors for other authors to come on and for other guests to come on. And we've been able to just invite some people on for conversation, some about books and some about just other issues that affect our Christian walk. And so I just want to say thank you. So whatever it was that connected us the first time, you've really started something, and I just like to say thank you and really appreciate you. Yeah,
Thank
I really
you
do.
for that.
I appreciate you. Go ahead. Yes.
No, I was just going to say I'm a big believer in divine appointments, and I wish I could reach out to everything I see where someone mentioned my book or whatever, but obviously it didn't work out that way. But there was something when I saw yours, I just had to reach out. And so, I mean, if that's, I'm so honored to hear that made some impact with you. And that just makes me even more sure
I really appreciate it. Yeah. It's not anything I would have even known to sought out. I'm just being honest. And it's just been a real pleasure. And I think that you are just a wonderful human and just a really, really wonderful author. And I will say, before we dive into this, I think Bethany's work at first seems like light romantic comedy, but there is a lot of depth to what you write and a lot to talk about. So I'm looking forward to our conversation over the next few minutes. And now I'm just going to tell you just a little bit about Bethany. She lives in Colorado with her husband, who she met online when it wasn't cool to meet people online. She was country when country wasn't cool. And now she's the mom of two boys. And this is the Two Boys Club. All four of us are moms of two boys. Yes. And so that's anyway, and she's on staff at her church in addition to being a full-time writer. So I think that's two full-time gigs. And she's a 3-time cancer survivor, and Hadley is her third book. And we've read the other two in our virtual book club here on the Steady On page. And just encourage any of you, once you love this discussion, go back and look at those two, because that's fun. It's our honor to call you a friend. So welcome back. Bethany's website is cbethanyWright.com. And her tagline, which I love, is tackling the thorny issues of life with humor and insight, which is exactly what I think you do. So
thank you.
Anything else you want to know, you want us to know about you before we dive in?
I don't know that there is anything else about me to know. That's you pretty much covered it.
This is a non-traditional introduction.
Like,
I feel like she got, when we all kind of were getting in the Zoom room and Lisa was having some technical difficulties, I'm like, well, you're just one of us because we're just ignoring you while we try to get going on.
I wouldn't want it any other way. I love that. I love it.
So, all right. So here's kind of the book overview, and I'm going to let Lisa and Maria put their 2 cents in, but this is kind of what I wrote down as a book overview. So Lisa's got her book there. Hadley Beckett's Next Dish is a romantic comedy about 2 feuding celebrity chefs. They get thrown together on a project, and sparks and knives begin to fly. Now, that's not somebody smarter than me wrote the but I'm like, that's kind of the premise of the book. And and the red flannel. I was just delighted. I was honored to be able to serve on the launch team for this book. And one of the things that even before we got to read the book, Bethany would wear her red flannel sometimes when she was doing like promos or just reaching out to the launch team and all that. And so I learned that red flannel had something to do in the book. And it actually is a shirt that Hadley reaches for at a specific time. I don't like inside jokes, so that's why I like to tell people why we're doing this, because you can wear your red flannel too. This is not like an exclusive party or anything. But she reaches for a red flannel shirt like kind of at an opportune time in the book. And so that's just been something we've picked up on, and red flannel is kind of the theme. So that's what we're doing here this afternoon. And so I've heard you. I'm just going to jump off, let you talk now. I really can't do that. I can be quiet when I put my mind to it. And I've heard you told us on the launch team that you liked Hadley, like you connected with Hadley right away, but Max took a little bit longer to grow on you. And so I want you to talk to us a little bit about that, and what's it like as a writer, like to develop connection with your fictional characters?
Well, my experience up till now has been that I connected with the hero pretty quickly because I was already seeing why my girl would fall in love with him. It's like that was where we start with these books. And then, but my heroines have been the ones that their journey from beginning to end, they're going to become this person I love, but they may not, like, Sarah Hollenbeck is not incredibly likable in the beginning of the book, except unless you like snarky, which I do, but still, it's, she's not necessarily her best self yet. And, all these different things. But with this book, Hadley was so genuine. Even though there are issues in the book of, where she has this persona that she goes to and all of that. But so there are levels of that, but who she is, she's not pretending to be something she's not. And then Max, when I started off writing Max, he was awful. I mean, he was absolutely awful. I could not stand this guy. And I didn't know how I was ever going to make him be someone that Hadley would fall in love with. I really didn't. I mean, it was one of those things where it was like, I'm not a good enough writer for this. I chose the wrong story. I've got to do something different. I mean, everything about it, I didn't think I could do it. And as I wrote the entire first draft, I did not like Max. And it showed in the draft that I turned in to my editor. It really did, because the first draft that I turned in is not the book that we have now. And Max, I don't think ever became likable. I never really saw why Hadley would like him, and all these different things. So for me, it really took doing the rewrite, which my editor had me do, which was the biggest undertaking I've ever had in my life as far as writing. So I had 2.5 weeks to completely rewrite the book. And I just want to be clear, when I say rewrite, I don't mean a big edit. I mean, I rewrote the book.
Even the basic storyline changed? Like, yeah. Really? Like you went, wow.
The prologue of the book is pretty much the exact same as what I originally wrote. Everything after that is different.
Wow.
So it was intense. And like I said, I had 2.5 weeks to do it, but things started to click. And It was these moments that I kind of had to force. Like, okay, I'm just going to make this happen and I'll come back and figure out why later. And, a few different things, but in forcing some of those moments, it's like Max revealed himself, and I was able to, it really came down to a couple key moments that, I won't get into too detailed, but a couple key moments in Max's story where he acts in a certain way or shows a certain something. And it was just like this moment, this epiphany of, oh, that's who you are. That's why you do that. That's what you're running from. That's what you're struggling with, things like that. And so Max and I had to work. I mean, now who Hadley is in the prologue, I feel like Hadley is in the whole book. She grows, but I never changed my image of her as a character. So I always liked her. I knew this girl, it's like, she's from Nashville, Tennessee. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. It's grew up, with manners and all this stuff. And it's like, we're very different, but at the same time, I knew who she was. And Max, I had no clue who he was.
Wow. I'm not sure in the book that Max had a clue of who he was at first, right? Is that
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so you feel that tension in the early part of the story, I think, where he's really, I think that's one of the things that draws him to Hadley, is that she didn't seem to need or wasn't searching for some of the things that he didn't understand about himself or that he needed or was looking for. And she just was more solid, just in herself,
Absolutely.
I think. Yeah.
I agree with that completely. Yeah. He had become the image of himself that got results.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And, it wasn't ever intentional, and he even says at one point, it's like, I don't know when that happened. I don't know when I became that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And, and I think that's the genuine thing for him, is it just happened so seamlessly through the years that suddenly, you're exactly right. He doesn't know who he is. He just knows who Max Kavanaugh is supposed to be.
And for those of us who are not celebrities, I think sometimes maybe we think we can't fall into the same trap, but oh my goodness, don't you think we can? Because I think there are times when we can wake up and say, actually, I don't know who Angie Bauman is. I know who I think the world thinks she needs to be, right? But I don't know who I am or what I want or what really makes me happy. And those things are really unsettling, which maybe is what, and we'll talk about this in just a second, but when Max begins to kind of unravel a little bit, I just wonder, I don't know that this is specifically addressed, but I think about other, like, I think when we begin to have an understanding of, I don't even know if I like myself or if I like what I do, then I think we are definitely fragile in terms of what's going to happen next. Because I think the most important thing over the last few years of my life has been this journey with God about embracing authenticity, like really just embracing it. And I have a friend, Erin L. Todd, who calls herself a masterpiece and a work in progress simultaneously. She talks about her thing is following Jesus, not diets, but she talks about that kind of thing. But I love that tagline, because I'm like, yes, I think we can be that. And when we realize we can be that, then we have what Hadley has. Right.
Yeah. And even though, with Hadley, I love when Max is able to kind of call her out on it a little bit too, that, she's so much more sure of who she is than Max has ever been. There's no doubt about it. But also, she walks into a room and she knows her charming Southern accent gets her helps her get off the hook for being late.
The accent is really something, I think. I remember that he points that out, where he's like, you don't talk like that until the cameras are rolling, right? And even though, and she really struggled in one part because they took her, I can't remember where they took her, but they like put horses in the background or something, and she was like, this is where she lives, sort of thing. She's like, I don't ride horses, I don't know anything about horses, and she struggled with that, right? And I think in different ways we all struggle when we're trying to fit ourselves into a place that's like, this isn't natural for me. Exactly. So the thing with Max, and that is, I think, risky, and this is one of my favorite things about your writing, because again, I think it kind of looks like a package of light, right? But there's so much underneath it, and I like that, because I think it takes a really smart plan to unfold that for us. But I would think, well, maybe not, I don't know, did his temperament raise questions for you, or like for your editor, or I don't know how you do, like do you do some like, hey, do you like this guy kind of thing with your friends or whatever, your writer friends? Because he has anger issues. In the beginning of the book, he drinks heavily. He made kind of, I don't know, like a fool of himself, but they were on this cooking show, and he behaved so badly that he like not lost his contract, but it was, detrimental to his career and all that. And so talk to us about that a little bit.
I did not run Max past anyone, and
smart.
Yes. I don't know. In hindsight, I'm so glad I didn't.
They might have talked you out of it. That would have lost. I mean, like, seriously, yeah.
People would have talked to me, and honestly, I think the fact that I was struggling with him so much too. But here, I'll say this first. Here was the big difference, besides just God's intercession, as far as me being able to get Max where I wanted him eventually from the first draft. In the first draft, after the prologue, we just keep on going, and we're seeing Max along his journey too. And it was still it started alternating Max and Hadley immediately after the breakdown. Like, I had scenes of Max in rehab written, and that was the original version. And such a game changer for me was my editors, after I'd written the whole draft, saying, I think we need some time without Max. and then he can reintroduce himself. And the thing was, that had been the original pitch for the story. And I'd lost it somewhere along the line, because the original pitch was supposed to be, he shows up at her door, she doesn't know if she can believe him or not. And so it's this, the trust having to be developed, but is he really out to get her or not? And so yeah, he was very risky. And I know that, not everyone ever is going to like him. But it was so important to me. Well, for one thing, when I was writing this initially, it was in the midst of Me Too taking over the world, the Me Too movement. And I could not as to be true to the character, to be true to my feelings, to be true to readers out there who have had different experiences, what I could not do was make him just misunderstood. And it was okay, he was a jerk because he was struggling with stuff. That could not be the case. And
why?
So
why?
Because sometimes people are just jerks and there's no good reason for it.
Okay.
It's kind of now there are reasons in his life that turned him into a jerk. And I think that was legitimate, but it wasn't like he was just having a bad day. Okay. Max was in a horrible place in his life, and he had become a self-centered, conceited, egotistical, chauvinistic jerk.
And that's who he was at that time at the beginning of the book. Okay. Yeah. I wanted to interrupt you because I wanted you to, expand on that. Yeah. Go ahead then. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in my mind, that's who he was. And so I didn't want, it would have been easier and probably more user-friendly in a lot of ways to just create this jerk with a heart of gold hidden underneath. And that's what we see a lot.
Yes.
And I needed Max to become the person that
let
we
go of the jerk in him. I see that. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Not to reveal that that's who he'd always been deep down, because it wasn't, but to become that. And then that becomes obviously so much, it becomes a spiritual thing in my mind, but it also becomes this literary thing of the heroes that I love. Like, what I love about Mr. Darcy is that he actually wants to become a better guy for Elizabeth Bennet. It's not just, Mr. Darcy's always a good guy, but he's, deep down, but he's a jerk, plain and simple. He does not treat her well. And yet her rebuking him, her being too good for him, and him realizing that even though he's the one with the higher status, Elizabeth is too good for Mr. Darcy. And when he realizes that and he wants to become a man worthy of her, that's why we love Pride and Prejudice. And so I wanted to show a man who, Max is not good enough for Hadley when we meet him. And it takes a lot of work for him to get there, and not because she's thinking he's not good enough, but because he knows he's not good enough.
He wants to become a man worthy of her. I love that. Yeah. And you do see that process, which is why one of the things in the book that I loved so much was the fact that they texted with each other, like their true friendship really was not a face-to-face, because that tended to go south real quick for them sometimes, right? But through texting, it's like they were able to be more vulnerable with each other. And you could see the hints of, in my texting, I can be who I want to be. And yet but I'm not solid enough in that I can do it when I'm like under pressure. But when I have time to think about it, then I can do it. Yeah.
Exactly. And Max drawing that out and him realizing that. And it's, I think we all do that. In our various ways of, it's, if someone's standing face to face with me and I have no time to hide my facial expressions before I respond, that's riskier. But it's like, okay, I can have whatever reaction I want and then pull even the truth together enough to say something that's a better conversation piece. So it's not about lying or being someone different, but it is presenting the better version of ourselves. And Max doing that, which I think, as it turns out, by Max doing that, that was almost a training tool for him of being better.
Yeah, like when we practice at something, we get better at it and we get faster at it. You know, one of the most mature things that I decided that I could do for myself was to ask for time when I needed it. Like, I can't answer you right now. I need to think about this a little while because I want to answer it. It deserves more attention to that, or you know, I want to answer it well. But I think when we like you were saying, like he's trying to become the man that's worthy of her, and so I need time to think about what that answer is. But over time, as I like practice that answer again, not like in a dishonesty, manipulative way, but really like what does the man who deserves Hadley, how does he answer this, right? And then we see him like progress, and then he does it like faster, right?
Yeah.
I love that
It
part of
becomes
his.
who he is, because then he starts going, it's almost like he has this Hadley filter that integrates into his brain of you know, as it starts out, it may be a little more, what would Hadley want me to say?
Yeah.
But it becomes, this is what I'm going to say because this is what Hadley would want me to say. And what Hadley wants me to say is the right thing.
Yeah. And I want to do right by her. I want to honor her. Yeah, absolutely. So I want to say hi to a couple people watching who are Missy and Don are saying hi. And Pam Saylor says, I have red flannel and I'd have worn it if I'd have known. But that's okay because we can't, you know, you can wear it when you read the book, right, Pam? I don't know if she's read it already. Carol said she missed most of it and she's glad she caught it, but Carol will stay here on the page so you can catch what you missed. So and that, oh yes, let me think. Sarah, I appreciate Sarah's comment too. That tactic is not used enough. Let me think about this and let me know what I think, and I'll let you know what I think. Yeah, I think that's so true, especially important conversations, or even if you've walked away from one and it didn't go the way you want, you can revisit that when you have time to think and process. And I see that in their relationship, because right away he understands this woman is important to me, whether it's as a friend or a lover. Maybe I don't know yet, but there's something about her heart that is important, and she has something I don't have. Right. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say a friend or a lover, or because I need her for my career.
True.
I mean, honestly, you know, and I mean, because even when we meet him again, our kinder, gentler Max still has some ulterior motives.
Yes.
And, you know, but it's like, regardless, Hadley has become, I mean, just like you were saying, Hadley has become a pivotal person in his life, and he needs her. And then that just morphs into various ways that he needs her.
Right. Yes. Right. So, kind of continuing on with Max, he struggles to deal with like the honesty, or even like his agents covering of like the fact that he actually went to rehab, right? Because it was kind of like, where did he go for a little while? And there comes a point where he just kind of says, listen, I was in rehab, you know, and I think that's really freeing for him. And correct me when I'm wrong, but I think a lot of us struggle to just kind of own those things in our past where, hey, you know what, this is my story. This is how it kind of like, maybe it was a rock bottom, or maybe it was a turning point. And I almost think, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I almost think that he feels like going to rehab was so important to like help pivot me and turn, you know, help me, invite me to be the man that I want to be, that I actually have to give credit where credit is due almost. But yeah, talk to us a little bit about just like how you decided to help that be part of Max's journey.
Yeah. You know, when I first, I don't know, I walked the line a lot in my mind when I first started of the anger management with versus rehab. And the thing is, Max needs to be rehabilitated in the worldly sense, rehabilitated. And so it's like, it was more than just his anger. It was, I mean, you know, Max is not an alcoholic, but he leans on the alcohol because it's easy. It's an easy way out. Max is not, you know, I mean, there are these different things. It's like, and there are these different things at the core, but regardless of what's at the core, Max has tons of bad habits and bad behaviors and needs some rehab. And so, yeah, when he goes to rehab and then comes back, and it's like everyone, he's done the hard work while he was there. I mean, he's not completely the man we want him to be yet, but he has put in the work. And I think it's almost insulting to Max that everybody sugarcoats it as, oh, he just had a little problem with his anger. He just had to go get some classes, is basically how it's being portrayed.
Because it was harder work than that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. In Max's mind, I mean, he's to the core of who he is. He's working on being better. Mm-hmm. And so that, and he doesn't know what that's going to look like. And but he reaches a point of, he owns it. And so I think all of that combined with the fact that then when his agent is just, don't say rehab, say anger management, it's a combination of the insult of all that combined with, he's really just tired of people orchestrating his life for him. But at the same time, it's like, okay, he doesn't have the breakthroughs till later of really being his own man and all that. And so he's still going to go along with that and all this stuff until obviously Hadley is kind of some of the final straws to all of that authenticity for him. And so, yeah, I mean, so Max worked hard to become better. And I think also the fact that in Max's mind, he's not just trying to manage his anger. He wants to get rid of the anger. Yeah. He doesn't know that. He never puts it in those words, but he's tired of feeling that way. And so I think it just never quite, the pieces just never quite connect for Max to just refer to it as anger management. And that's all it was,
It reminds me of something from my own life where, like, because there's a lot of people in, like, do what I do. They're like, sometimes you just got to do it afraid, right? Which is, there's truth. Like, you step out and you do something afraid. But the thing in my heart, and I think it's like the Holy Spirit's guidance and check on my heart too, because it's like, actually, yes, doing it afraid sometimes is okay, but I really want to get to a point where I'm actually not afraid, right? Like, I want to do the hard work. And I see that, like, with Max's anger, where he's like, yeah, I can learn skills to not go to the alcohol or to not react this way or whatever, but I actually want to, like, dig just a little bit deeper and say, why am I angry? And can we get that out so that it's not something I'm just trying to cover, but something I actually don't deal with anymore? And that's
exactly. Yeah. And it's a hard thing. And and he's more successful at sometimes than others of that.
As are we all, right? Yeah, no doubt.
Exactly.
Yeah. Me too.
No doubt.
Kathy Ripley says hi, and a couple other people are watching too. I'm so glad that you guys are on today. And I'm Lisa, Maria, anything? I know you guys have been kind of quiet. I have more questions, but anything else, you guys can comment and interrupt us too when you want to.
I think. Go ahead.
They're not usually this polite. I don't know. They're on their best behavior for you, Bethany. No,
I'm already thinking, Bethany already stole all my stuff.
Right.
I'm like, no, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Who does she think she is? The author?
She thinks she is the guest. Oh no.
So rude.
I am totally on board with the whole Max thing and the persona. And the mask that you wear, what you project and what you want to be, and how hard it is to convert from what everybody thinks you are to what you really want to be. And when everybody thinks you're one thing, it takes a long time to change that thinking in other people to the point that some people may never see the new you, or the you that you really want to be, the one that's you like better. I really felt a lot of that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to take a risk here, Lisa, because I know what Lisa's talking about because I've known her so long. Lisa used to be very, very competitive. And if she didn't win, she was mad. And that took it like, and I know that's what you're talking about, and she's tried hard. She's grown so much in that. But I know there are times when it hurts her deeply for people to remember, right? And to only put like down like how that behavior, and we all have those things, so don't send me hate mail later, but we all have those things, right? Where we're like, actually I've grown up some. Beth Moore, who I love her stuff, but she talks about how whenever she gets together like with her college girlfriends and stuff, that they'll talk about things that they used to do in college and all this stuff, and she's like, I'd like to just not talk about that stuff anymore because it's been a long time since I was that girl and I behaved that way, right? I think we all we hopefully all progress, right? And we want that to be celebrated by the people who love us that are close to us. Yeah. So
you just kind of learn all that stuff as go ahead.
No, you go.
You just learn all that stuff as you grow, and I just kind of always put that to it's actually, I think, a Maya Angelou, that when you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And so that was how I was going to close that. Go ahead, Bethany.
I think both of your sisters are watching, just so you know. Melanie, Lisa's sister, says she was just a tad competitive. I think it's what
I hope I do better now.
You do better now. Yeah, go ahead, Bethany.
Well, I just, what you said is so true. And I think, I talked earlier about those pivotal moments for me that's helped to unlock Max. One of them was when I wrote the first scene, at the Bluebird, when Hadley realizes that Max got all the blame for her outburst. And that happens a couple different times, but it kind of breaks her for the first time seeing what he's dealing with. Of everyone still thinks he's the fiery Max Kavanaugh who's going to blow off the handle at any point. And there she was the one who lost her temper. He provoked her, but still.
And not only do they see him that way, but sometimes they benefit from it, right? They use that to their own benefit. And she didn't like that. She didn't like them using him for something, especially when she could see that he was trying, and change is hard. So
absolutely.
Maria, were you going to add something? I know you and Lisa started kind of talking at the same time. Do you have something
I want to give Bethany kudos in her writing. I mean, just the style of it, because I obviously, we've talked, I was not a Max fan. 3/4 of the way, I was not convinced that was going to happen. Like I wasn't sure, and there were some key moments that turned a key character, and then just the reflections back to his past, a little bit. Again, didn't justify the because, but I was shocked. I'm like, oh, okay. I did eventually, you did a very good job of turning that corner, because
well, some things for our behavior, I read this a while back, there are reasons that aren't excuses. Right? So this is the reason that someone's behaving that way, but that doesn't excuse it necessarily, because we're called to grow and speaking of growing and calling and these kind of things, I'm going to switch our question just a little bit, because church and Jesus were dominant themes in your last two books, but not as much in this one. And so I'm just wondering, was that an intentional decision on your part to not lighten, that's not what I mean at all, but to lessen the Jesus talk in this book, or does that just kind of unfold as the story unfolded?
Well, here's what I'll say to that. And I know I can't make anyone be in my head in my journey of this. So I know
there's no judgment here
the way I do. And I know that, and I love that. The thing is, while there is less Jesus on the page, I honestly believe there's more Jesus in this story than in anything I've written.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah.
Because it's not overt, but what a pivotal moment for me in the rewrite, because I didn't know, to answer the straight question, first of all, it wasn't intentional. I don't plot my books out or plan my books out enough to claim that anything's intentional. Unfortunately, I never know what's going to come out. I just go where the story goes and go where the characters go and where God leads me. But I knew when we have a moment of Hadley is very much running things through this filter of her Christianity and her faith, and then she cuts herself off, and she has this internal thought of, I can't, it's like, I can't reach nearly as many people for Jesus if I end every sentence with, it's about Jesus, y'all, and that's just her kind of being her. But that was kind of where my heart was too, because the reality of that moment for them, they were being more true with each other than they had been at any point up till then. And there was no way, I think, any of us would have preached to Max right then. The best thing, and the thing is, it's like, I don't think Jesus would have preached to Max right then. Jesus would have loved and accepted Max and shown him love and shown him faith. And that's an interesting story. If Jesus had talked to Max, that's a whole other thing. But
I That could be a blog post. Write that for us. Yeah.
But then as it went on from that point, because that was one of those key moments for me, as it went on from that point, it was just never natural for them to talk about Hadley's faith. Because and there was some element of, okay, should I force this in here? Should I make, and I could not do that. That, like, I will not force the faith in the books, because I don't want it to ever feel unnatural. I think that's more of a turnoff to people who maybe aren't believers yet, but are open to reading the story. I'm going to turn them off if I start preaching to them, if it's not organic and natural. Even if it is organic and natural, sometimes it's going to turn them away. But but as it went on, there was so much of, like, literally the last scene that I wrote was Max and Hadley's final interview in Renowned, which too much to get into, you know, for everyone who hasn't read the book, but basically it's an interview for the TV show, and Max says something to the effect of, I don't know what she has, but not everybody has it. And whatever it is that she has is what made it possible for us to become friends. And that was the key moment of Max for me. It's like, and so there have been a lot, like, the most negative thing I've been hearing over and over in reviews is, I wish there'd been more faith, wish there'd been more church, Christianity, all this stuff. And I get that. I mean, I do. I'm not offended by anyone who thinks that. But also, it's like, no, he was there the entire time. Jesus was there the entire time. And Max doesn't have the answers. Max was not going to reach this moment of, oh, I see, it's because she believes in Jesus. That's what he's figuring it out. And I think that's more often than not the reality of how we reach people, is by our example.
I think it's a beautiful example of authentic evangelism, where, you know, the things about her that he was drawn to, or the things that she offered him, it's the essence of behaving as a Christian towards someone else, where she was able to offer forgiveness, where she had hope that in the new person, the new creation that he was becoming, right? Where she had love for him, agape love, not before romantic love. She was able to love him as a human being, weaknesses at all. And that doesn't mean, I think, you know, in the early days in the book, I don't want to do spoilers as much. I've tried not to do that. I'm trying to figure out how to do this and not do spoilers. But, you know, in the early days, she was guarded, appropriately so, I think, but she didn't not extend love in a way, and like second chances and some of those things. And that's Jesus, right? Yeah, go ahead.
And I think even the difficulty for her in the prologue, I mean, no spoilers here because it's so early on, but it's she doesn't know if she's been enough of a Christian to him, basically. And you know, but someone kind of uses her faith almost against her to try to get sympathy for Max of, oh, I think you're the praying type, he could use some prayer, which, nothing wrong with that sentence in and of itself, but there were manipulative motives behind it. And so but then that causes this conflict in her of, well, I am the praying type. I should be, but this guy was a jerk to me. And, you know, so she
it ain't magic, sister. Prayer ain't magic. That's right.
Exactly. It's like, okay, fine. Maybe I'll pray for you, but I still don't ever want to see you again.
Right.
You know?
Yes.
And so I think, you know, watching her work through that, even though she's very solid in her faith, obviously, and very mature in her faith, but still, she's still working it out like we all are all the time.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about the kissing before we let you go.
Yes, please.
Yes, so I heard you say that you think that you've written the best kiss you've ever written in this book, and I kind of want to know why. I want to know what about their affection, just as like kind of, because I guess that's probably like the sweetest to you. And I have like my own opinion about what I think is just the sweetest kind of affection. And it's the same with Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, right? Because I think in affection that stirs me is when there's this like honesty that is extended and then received by the other person. And that's what I saw between Max and Hadley, where this like, because I let you kiss me and it's so sweet, which is like, because you've shown me who you are and I accept who you are. I don't know, but I want you to talk about it. Like which one actually is your favorite? Tell us. And then, why?
Okay. I agree with everything you said, but I will say that the kiss that was my favorite was their first kiss.
Okay. When it's really not about that, what I just said.
It's not about that. And yet it is. That's okay. Is the thing. And yet it is.
Yeah.
Because it's not as overtly that. But what I loved, definitely no spoilers here. But okay, here's the thing. My first draft that had to be rewritten, the first kiss was on the last page of the book.
Oh, I've heard you say that, and I'm like, how did that work for you? I know.
Yes.
Oh my.
Yes, and if you've read my other books, that's not my typical MO. And my editor was just like, Bethany Turner, what am I going to do with you? This will not fly.
Your people want kissing.
But I was still in that place of, I don't like him. Why would Hadley kiss him? So I had to work through all that. But she was like, I want them either kissing or flirting with kissing by about the midway point. And I'm like, oh yeah, right. How am I going to get them there? So the reason there's so much to why I actually love this kiss, but it's completely unexpected. I think it's safe to say from a reader standpoint. It's definitely unexpected from a Hadley standpoint and even a Max standpoint. Honestly, he didn't really see it coming either. And I wrote it having no idea. I knew I was going to have to go back and build them into it. But I was like, I just got to have him kiss her so that I can move on and have this breakthrough, and then I'll fix it later. And so I had him do that. Well, I never went back. Not like I forgot. Then it was like, no, there's nothing to fix, because exactly what you were saying, Angie, that moment, they were as real with each other as either of them had ever been.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that when I wrote it until I read it after. I'm like, oh yeah, this is how their kiss needed to happen, because they still have their walls, and this kiss just had to break through them a little bit. In some ways it makes things worse, in some ways it makes things better. But there was such a vulnerability on Max's side, because he had a lot to lose of what that was a bad move. I really messed everything up.
Yep.
Yeah.
And from Hadley's perspective, I think her most vulnerable is actually when she tells him to shut up and starts kissing him again. And it's not just, in my mind, it wasn't just, oh, that's fun. Although it was fun to write,
Yeah.
But it was just like, she stopped thinking for a minute.
Yeah.
And Hadley never stops thinking.
Right.
And so it was just like, oh, okay. So but the way that from that moment on, they had no idea what they were going to do.
Yeah.
They didn't know if they were going to be able to forge a friendship or a relationship or work together, or, and we still have lots of ups and downs from that moment, but it bonded them.
Yeah.
It caused a connection that I don't think they would have been able to develop for a while without the physical connection. And there was almost this element of they couldn't really hide from each other anymore, because it was out there. It almost
leveled the playing field. Like we're equally confused about what's happening here. Yeah.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, well, we loved it. That goes without saying, obviously. How many times have you read it, Lisa? She usually reads things twice.
Yeah, at least twice. And then my notes and looking back and all that,
I'm going to let these girls talk. They both both participated in your launch party on Zoom, and they had a great time. And Lisa took she emailed me notes that she took on all the authors that were there, so we have new things to read and all this. And so Lisa's my note taker, and yeah. So, but yeah, anything else, Lisa or Maria? There they are. Lots of notes. Anything else on questions for Bethany or things like that we talked about that you guys want to add?
I felt like in the other, at least in wooing, there wasn't, other than the parents a little bit who we kind of discussed then, the bad guy kind of thing. And I really enjoyed, and I didn't want to do any spoilers, but Marshall and Leo. I liked the end result of what happened with that. And I was really, really happy to see you write it that way, because I really needed that to happen.
I'm so glad.
Mm-hmm.
That was another Max pivotal point for me in the crate. I like him just a little bit more when that whole development happened.
Yes.
Yeah. I know. I don't think we know how to do this very well, Bethany. Like, I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't read it yet, but I don't know. I know. I need lessons in interviewing authors and not doing spoilers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I agree. The bad guy took me by surprise a little bit in this one. I didn't see that coming quickly. So good. I mean, that's good. That's what you want. Yeah. So
yeah. I mean, I think, like we did talk about the parents previously being the in wooing being not the bad guy, but definitely the conflict point. And it was fun, honestly, to just I mean, I hope by the end you really do not like said people,
right?
Especially said person, and it's like no bones about it, and so so good. I'm glad you enjoyed that.
Yeah, I saw it as a bonding
I'm
thing
writing
for
that.
those two. So, go ahead.
Good. Yeah.
Well, I wasn't sure.
Absolutely.
It took us a while. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say I truly appreciate Hadley. I love baking. I connected with her right away, and I'm still waiting on a recipe. I'm going to try one of her recipes. I'm going to get in there.
Oh, I know. There was a couple of things in there. What was the one that was named for her? I forgot what it was
The
called.
Boo Hadley.
Yes,
the Boo Hadley. Okay, that was hilarious.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm like, I got to make that somehow.
I know. If you come up with a recipe, please share it with me.
Because
I've had so many people ask. I'm like, I don't know.
Now, do I know this right? You don't actually cook a lot, right?
Yeah,
I didn't think that's.
I don't cook, and it's horrible. Like so many things, because in every interview, obviously, cooking is a theme, and everybody's like, can you share some of Hadley's recipes, or what are some of your favorite recipes? And I'm just like,
no,
I know how to make eggs. Okay.
That's kind of hard, actually.
I worked real hard on eggs one year, like to learn how to make every kind of egg. So I can do that. That's about it. And so I'm like, I'm a complete fraud, everybody. I just so you know, I do not know how to cook.
Maria, I can't sign off here without telling this story, because Maria does like to bake, and we appreciate her baking. But 20 years ago, no, I gotta tell you, when Maria and I were really early friends, okay. My husband and I had children. We were over at their home, and Maria had made some chocolate eclairs. Now, what it's really important to know is that she used unsweetened cocoa and didn't add sugar, so they were horrific. And so, but her husband thought it would be funny to tempt my husband to eat one. And so he's like, my wife made these eclairs and they're so great. So my husband takes a great big bite out of it. I'm just talking to Maria. We're kind of new friends. Okay. What we're in that sort of like, are we real friends? All this stuff. And we're talking and stuff. And then I look over, my husband takes a bite and then spits it out. I'm like, what are you doing? You don't spit some. Like, I don't care how bad it is, you eat that. So now the chocolate eclairs is like this forever joke now between the Jessups and the Baughmans. Yeah. Keep trying, Maria. Keep trying. You might, if she sends you a recipe for the Boo Hadley, just proceed with caution. That's all I'm saying.
I'll have Matt taste test it first before I send it.
I don't know. Bethany, tell everyone where they can follow you, I'm giving away a copy of Hadbeck on Saturday on the page, just so you guys know. So watch out for that. And tell us where we can follow you, find you, buy your books, all that kind of good stuff, or anything else you want us to know.
Well, I am C. Bethany Wright at almost everything. So cbethanyWright.com is my website, and that'll show you everything, but also Facebook, Instagram, C. Bethany Wright. You can buy the book anywhere books are sold. Launching a book in the middle of a pandemic has been a new experience. So I have all sorts of new like indie booksellers that I have so much respect for and love for, because they were sending out books while Amazon was taking a month, or whatever. I mean, kudos Amazon.
Yes,
I have nothing
I know,
against Amazon, but so I'd say support local whenever you can. But wherever you want to get the book, it's available, and it's available in ebook and audiobook. Also, can I give a quick shout out for the audiobook? Oh my goodness. So Oasis, there's an audiobook. Oasis Audio did the audiobook. It's read by Amy Lilly, who she reads lots of Christian romance and different things, but she's also read like 100 boxcar children books, like the official. Anyway, she's amazing.
Really?
Like, I listened. I was just gonna listen and skip through because I know the story. I don't need to hear it.
What are you doing? I'm listening to my own book on audio.
What's Max gonna do next? I don't know. But I ended up listening to every word because I was so drawn into her performance. So
I love that.
So it's available on Audible or wherever. So check out the audiobook.
Awesome.
Yeah. Amy Lilly, is that who you said
Amy
her
Lilly.
name was? So you might maybe check out some other things too that she reads. So,
she's
Sarah's
amazing.
asking, do you have a favorite local bookseller? Do you have a favorite?
My favorite? Oh, I have no one actually local because I live in the middle of nowhere, but order from Baker Bookhouse.
Baker Bookhouse,
BakerBookhouse.com. They're amazing. They've been sending things out so fast and at a discount quite often. So I love Baker Bookhouse.
Oh, that's great. That is wonderful. Go ahead.
I don't know if it's a fair question, so you don't have to answer.
I don't know that we're, I don't know that that's a prerequisite.
Do you have another book in the works for us?
Oh, it's a fair question. I just don't know if I can give you a fair answer.
Okay.
I do. And I'm currently, I should be signing a contract literally within days, and I'll be able to announce a little more.
We're so happy to hear that.
Yeah.
So more details to come, but I should have another one coming out in 2021.
Yay.
Awesome.
Yes. That's wonderful. News. We're so glad to hear that. I do feel like before we sign off, I've told stories on both of you ladies, Lisa and Maria. Did you want to tell a story on me before we?
Do it.
Man, Angie got us into this.
I feel like I should give you a chance.
We don't have enough time.
We'll see everybody later. No.
And we're out.
Angie brought us into this, and we're just thrilled to be here. How's that?
Aww.
No.
Yeah, that's nice.
Yeah. Bethany, we love you. We're so grateful for your time here, and thank you for. This is the latest. Hadley Beckett's Next Dish. It's no small thing to put your heart and soul into something and then subject it to the criticism of the world. And my hope always is that the love and the affirmation way outweighs the criticism, because it's just always there. So thank you for being brave and sharing your gift with us and just blessing us with this story. We love you, and we can't wait till you come back. So
thank you. I love you guys so much. I can't wait to come back. Please come back.
All right. We're going to sign out. See you, everybody. Peace.